Oh, hey out there. Welcome back to Tiny Little Victories, the podcast that shares stories from spectacular humans. Yeah, everyone on this show is human. Isn't that a relief? I'm your host, Jennifer Kite Powell, and on today's episode of season 4, notice how I'm really promoting that. We are in episode 2, and it is a very special episode today because it's International Women's Day. Woo! Love those special effects. And for International Women's Day, we have made a pretty spectacular episode. I am excited about it because we have a main episode with a special guest, and we have a compilation from people around the world who have dropped little audio tidbits into my email account telling me why International Women's Day is important to them, or what the hell's wrong with the world that we don't actually focus on women a lot more. I'm not going to tell you who's going to say what, but I want to shout out a very special thank you to the people who volunteered. It didn't take a lot of coercing, let me just tell you, to leave little audio messages for this segment. Yeah, it's a nice little variety of people. So sit back and enjoy this compilation for International Women's Day. And to kick off these voices for International Women's Day, we're going to take a journey to Éire, or Ireland, as most of us know it. And we're going to hear 3 voices, Deidre, Sinead, and Terry.
On International Women's Day, I would like to celebrate the strength, resilience, and compassion of women everywhere, especially those in healthcare and education. As a nurse, and a student and mentor, I see every day how women uplift, heal, and inspire. So let's keep breaking barriers, supporting each other, and shaping a future where every woman's potential is realised.
International Women's Day for me isn't just about getting flowers from your boss and a pat on the back. It's actually about recognising what's come before us and how far we've come and how we can lift each other up to go even further.
Díagwich ó Baile ó Clia a Carja. Hello from Dublin, friends. I'm Terry, and for me, International Women's Day is about much more than calling out gender inequality. It's also a powerful reminder for us to continue, 1, honouring our ancestors, by celebrating the women who paved the path before us and those continuing to do so now. 2, reflecting, resting and rising, taking stock of where we stand, pausing and pushing forward together for a better world. 3, embracing our inner power, because let's remember, they didn't burn witches, they burned wise women, healers, those who dared to know. In 2025 and beyond, let's rise together. Let's reclaim the witch within us all.
From our favorite commercial airline pilot, Naus Wilbrink, he brings us a viewpoint about women in aviation, and I think that he's got some really good points here about the role of women in aviation.
So answering the question of why International Women's Day matters, and I'm doing it through the lens of aviation. Mostly because that's the field I operate in now, and also because it's an interesting field since it has been and is a male-dominated field up till now. See, only 8% of the ATP-rated pilots are female. So in a professional setting, they are way underrepresented. Now, is that a bad thing? Currently, men have made all the rules and the settings and the checklist and every element to aviation. And that's great. It works. Safety is high. But we are missing out on potentially 50% of smartness. And obviously, that's baffling. You always want the best people for the job. And without any attention to it, we are discarding 50% of the possible people that can be great at this job. So I would argue International Women's Day matters because we need to set an example for women around the world that maybe aspire or don't know they can aspire things that are in male-dominated areas. I know this is only one aspect of it. There's many more, but this is the one I chose to highlight.
I bring you a little visit to Metz, France, where friends Kimberly and Shrika are having a conversation about what International Women's Day means to them.
Hi, my name is Kimberly, I live in France. I'm here with my friend Shrika. We're talking about some feminist issues today, which is quite apposite. Thinking about why International Women's Day is important. It's important because women are still ununited today. Women still make it difficult for other women to succeed. I know I've had that in my own personal, professional life. And, whether that's caused by their own internal misogyny or racism, I don't know. But it's so good to be able to celebrate the fact that we do have women who are fighting for our equality, whatever it means, feminism, rights, the right to be taken seriously, education, to be able to go to the police and have a complaint about a rape or an aggression and be taken seriously. So it's one day. We have at least one day. It should be, more frequent than that, where we get to celebrate women who've worked for us to get to where we are today, and the women who will come after us, still working towards that, because we are facing even more challenges in terms of misogyny across the world and racism. I think the two are very much interlinked. So it's so important to remember this ongoing cause, celebrating our sisters, fighting for us, and that we are fighting for.
Hi, I am Shrika. I'm 25 years old and I'm in a cafe with my friend Kimberly. We've always had a lot of interesting conversation about feminism and women's rights issues. And why International Women's Day is important for me is to reflect on how much we have improved throughout the years and how much we still need to go for it and help the younger generation become more aware about the privileges that they have and how far we have gotten. And I think it's important that even though it should be celebrated or be important to reflect every day, but just to understand how much there is still inequality in different ways, whether it be a gender pay gap, whether it be simply voicing out your opinion, or how the media is often there to undermine women in different ways. So I think it's important for us that we have one day where each of us just really openly talk about it and understand and be grateful that we are in this position, that at least now we can have a voice and we are talking about it. Yeah, there is much more beautiful movements to go for in the future.
Heading out to Idaho, where they drop gigantic potatoes from the tops of buildings on New Year's Day, recurring and favorite guest, comedian and hairstylist Andy Trammell, shares with us the importance of International Women's Day to her.
Hi, my name's Andy, and I'm chiming in from Idaho. And International Women's Day is a very important day. And I think even more important than the day, it's celebrating it every day. And teaching our future generations of women that I think the most important thing is celebrating each other. And it's women supporting women and empowering each other in the workplace, in life, in friendships, in everything. I think creating that foundation of support is the key to any positive forward movement.
Mother and daughter, Patrice and Jane Morrison in Dallas, Texas, share their views on the role of International Women's Day and why we need to keep it in the forefront of our collective minds.
Hi, my name is Patrice Morrison. I'm 49 years old, and I am the proud owner of Chicks and Caboodles, a custom fashion accessories brand here in Arlington, Texas. International Women's Day to me represents a time to celebrate the strength, resilience, and achievements of women around the world. It's a reminder of how far we've come in the fight for equality, while also acknowledging the work still needed to create a world where women's voices, rights, and potential are fully recognized and valued. Let's keep raising our voices, breaking barriers, and inspiring each other every day.
Hi, my name is Jade Morrison. I am 23 years old. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I am currently working as an account manager. International Women's Day is important to me because it honors the achievements and contributions of women while also advocating for gender equality. It highlights the ongoing fight against gender-based discrimination, violence, and the barriers that still hold women back in many parts of the world. This day just serves as a reminder to celebrate progress, acknowledge setbacks, and it's a call for action to ensure equal opportunities for all women, regardless their background or their nationality or social status.
From the chilly land of Finland, we have a great voice, Hannah Manaman, who shares with us her memories of International Women's Day and how it came into focus in Finland.
My name is Hanna Manninen. I'm 52 and I live in Oulu, northern Finland. I'm an art gallerist and I also do PR and marketing for a living. My first memory of International Women's Day involves roses, red roses especially. I must have been in my 20s and just walking in town when someone handed a red rose to me and wished me Happy Women's Day. I didn't have a clue then what the day was all about. Women's Day arrived to us from Soviet Union back in the day. We have our common history and have had pretty close ties with Russia, so it wasn't unusual to implement customs from our eastern neighbor. For people of my generation and older ones, Women's Day is still seen as something Russian, and for many, it's just a day when single red roses are handed out to women. Previously, it has had more political sentiment. Nowadays, it's more of a day to celebrate women with treats and pampering and those red roses here in Finland. Though I think we should highlight the real role of International Women's Day here in Finland as well. There is still so much to do when it comes to equality and women's rights, even over here. Roses won't bring a safer and equal world for women, but they can't send the message if we just remind people what the day is all about and what the women before us have fought for to give us the rights we have now.
In Atlanta, Georgia, we hear from 19-year-old college student Isabella about what International Women's Day means to her.
I think International Women's Day is so important now more than ever because of where we are as a country to remind us of how far we've come and how hard the women of the past have worked to get us to where we are today.
Jumping over to the United Kingdom, we hear two powerful voices from Shivani and our very own podcast producer, Mark Cotton.
International Women's Day is an opportunity to celebrate progress and recognise the achievements and contributions of women, but equally a global moment of reflection that highlights there's still a lot of work to be done.
International Women's Day, to me, means hope for the future. But it also means a time to reflect and to look at the amazing women that have come before. And I've decided to select one, and that's a lady called Betty Webb, who during World War II was a code breaker at both Bletchley Park and the Pentagon. I'm proud to call Betty my friend, and at 101, she still goes out and gives talks to young people about what she did during World War II for all of us. Now that's a truly inspiring woman.
And from the Windy City, we get to hear from Dr. Jen Henchy, who is the CEO and founder of Fertile Fertility Science. And Jen's invention won Time Magazine's Best Invention in 2024. And Jen talks to us about the significance of this day to everybody in the world, not just if you're a woman.
I'm Dr. Jennifer Henchy, the CEO and founder of Fertile Fertility Science, and this is why International Women's Day matters to me. For most of my life, I believed I could do anything. I didn't see being a woman as something that held me back. I saw myself on a level playing field, and for a long time, that felt true. But something happens when you're the only woman in the room time and time again. You start noticing things that you can't unsee. So while I worked hard to earn my seat at the table, I also recognized that in some ways it was given to me. I grew up in a small town, the only girl playing boys soccer until high school. Those coaches could have said no to me being on a boys team, but instead they embraced me. Not every girl is that lucky. Somewhere along the way, I found myself in spaces where the answer was no. I realized that access isn't about talent or drive. Sometimes it was simply about my gender. And when you've been in enough of these rooms, you stop seeing yourself as just an individual. I started recognizing that I was representing every woman who was told she couldn't have a seat at the same table where I was sitting. That's why International Women's Day matters. It's not just about recognizing how far we've come, it's about acknowledging how much farther we have to go. It's about breaking the glass ceilings above us and reaching behind to pull other women up. I have a daughter now, and I owe it to her to help women make up as much ground as possible while I'm here, so that her generation doesn't have to fight the same battles as mine. So to every woman out there making space for others, challenging the system, and proving that we belong, thank you. You are seen, you are heard, and together we are unstoppable.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that collection of voices from around the world, which brings me to the main part of our show, which is a very special guest from South Carolina, Kim Smith, who's the CEO and founder of HealthEvolve. Now, before we get into this very candid chat with her, I just want to lay out with you some facts about the world's population. Now, ready for this? Did you know this? That pretty much half of the world's population is pretty much even between men and women. As far as it goes, it's about 102 men for every 100 women. However, as we move through time, that gap narrows to the point where there's not so much of a gap anymore because men die younger than women. And so in the end, there's more women than men. But here's something kind of interesting. The sex ratio in the United States favors females, even though the gender gap is stable. And in 2010, there were about 5.17 more women, with the difference expected to decrease around 3 million by 2027. But where we're looking at now, we're almost on parity. It's just about the same, men for women. Now, here's another interesting fact. Women represent the largest, not the smallest, not the mediumist, the largest market opportunity in the world. Globally, women control 20 trillion in annual consumer spending. 20 trillion. We own the purse, fellas. So I'm not sure what all the kerfuffle about is in Washington. Hey, wait a minute. Maybe that's what the kerfuffle's about. Okay. In the next 5 years, that number from 20 trillion is expected to rise to $30 trillion. So when it comes down to who controls the budget, who controls the spending in the household, it is 100% women. And they also control, ready for this, healthcare spending. And that is what we're going to talk to today with Kim Smith. Now, Kim Smith has a company that she started that's all about equilibrium and balancing out the cultural differences in how healthcare is delivered. She has a new digital platform called the Lauren Platform. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about why it is that the medical community does not take women's healthcare issues seriously. In fact, there are 16 different verticals in women's health. So it's not just your period and having a baby. It's everything else. It's oncology. It's breast cancer. It's the pelvic floor health. It's menopause, very big. It is mental health. Cardiovascular is another one. So there are lots of different verticals out there, and we tend to only focus on a couple, which is just not the case. So we're going to talk a little bit about the why today and how we can make a change. How can we change? How can we support other women? How can the healthcare system change? What can you do when you go in to see a doctor and they don't take you seriously? How can you control that narrative? And one of the very interesting tips that Kim talks about is the fact that your corporeal sleeve, you're walking around with this body, you are your own clinical data. So basically, when you go in there, you've got to tell them what's going on with your body. You have that information. They don't have it. So it's up to you to make sure that you communicate that. So I want you to sit back, really enjoy this show because Kim was such an interesting person to talk to. She has just come back from South Africa, where she has gotten her doctorate degree. So she is coasting through this amazing career of hers that was born out of adversity, but has ended in the commitment to help other women and to help other people who are traditionally marginalized. Stay tuned for Kim Smith, the CEO and founder of HealthEvolve. Okay, Kim Smith, welcome to the special episode of Tiny Little Victories for International Women's Day. Hello, Kim.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm so happy that you made time out of your schedule because I know you're about to leave to go to Africa for an event. I saw you earlier today at South by Southwest on the panel we were on, but now I get a chance to talk to you personal one-on-one about what you're doing as the CEO of HealthEvolve and what this day means to you in terms of like women's healthcare. Actually, that's a very big question. How can you even answer that? I just like lobbed them all in there.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Sorry, Kim.
This is a special moment.
It is. Okay. I mean, I can just see my producer right now, like, slow down, take it back a step. But I do want to just talk to you and say, like, can you talk to us a little bit about what HealthEvolve does? And you have a really great motto that I love. And you say it all starts with women at your company.
It does.
And so talk to us a little bit about like HealthEvolve and why it all starts with women.
Absolutely. I am so honored, honestly, to one, be on this podcast and have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
But I'm also grateful for the vision, right, of being able to build out this solution that I believe the industry needs. So we launched HealthEvolve with the focus on women and families. And I believe that it all starts with women. We are a digital health innovation company. We focus on 3 core clinical areas: cardiovascular health, diabetes management, and stress and anxiety. And we're really centered on those 100 weeks of care. So that's specifically discussing from the care that women receive from conception to 12 months postpartum. And we believe that it starts with women because 80% of healthcare decisions in the home are made by women. So they really are carrying the weight of healthcare decisions.
Yeah.
And a lot of the health of children starts in the womb. So in essence, it all starts with women.
I love that because you're right. Like you started this company because you obviously you're a mom.
Yes.
So you began as a mom. And I just want to point out to everyone that's listening out there, if you are a mom, then you probably went through the entire process that Kim is talking about here. And so I want to just say that I applaud you for creating a company that just focuses on women's health in this 101st weeks, because something that you said before is that, you know, when it comes to women's health care, people tend to dismiss like women's issues. And then on top of that, you're talking about pregnancy, right? So you're really taking a very sharp focus on these things because I do believe that like if you're bringing a child into the world, the mother needs to be healthy, the baby needs to be healthy. And that's not just once you deliver, right? Because you actually also really focus on postpartum issues as well. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. So we do. We focus on that moment from conception through postpartum. And it's a beautiful opportunity to position women for both short-term and long-term health improvement, right? So much happens, even from a biologic perspective, to your body when you get pregnant. We understand that. And we can get into this later, but I'll mention that we're going into pregnancy more sick, right?
Yeah.
More likely to have high blood pressure, pre-diabetes, a lot of stress, anxiety, and or we're exiting pregnancy in that state, right?
Yeah. And you know what? Can I just like insert something here? Because I love that you said that. I'm not a mother, but I have 4 animals. But I have a lot of friends, obviously, I've had babies. And do you remember, this is like maybe 10, 11, a decade ago, could we say? Do you remember when preeclampsia was just like, what's this problem? That was not treated at all seriously. And I'm not going to go say watch back episodes of ER to like see like how scary preeclampsia is. But the dismissiveness of preeclampsia by doctors in the community, I think, and now today is like, oh, she has preeclampsia. Like it's out in the open.
Yes.
To me, that's a really great example of your 100 weeks. One of the issues that comes up that used to be, I didn't feel taken very seriously.
Absolutely. So many women are dismissed. And really, that's linked to my own personal story. I survived HELLP syndrome, which people consider a severe version of preeclampsia. You know, my blood pressure was 200/100, and I could have had a stroke at 29.
Yeah, these are things people don't talk about enough.
They don't.
Like the life of the woman is just as important because they've got to bring that baby out into the world. And it bothers me that the political system right now, or how people view what's happening in the world, is like dismisses the life of the woman and forgets that without her, that baby is not going to be healthy and happy.
Right.
How it's so shifted.
You know, there's so many women. I was at a conference maybe 5 years ago because I was actually pregnant with my youngest son. It was a focus on building women's health advocates, right? It was in Chicago. And we asked every woman to raise their hand if they felt dismissed at any point in their maternal health journey. Every hand went up. Now, I come from the world of providers, and I love my physicians, my providers, and everyone isn't like this, right? We know that everyone is not like this. But for those that are, for those that dismiss pain, for those that dismiss what you see happening in your body, because you're with yourself more than you're with anybody else.
Yeah.
It's frightening what can happen. And really the things that are missed often are quite obvious if you just listen.
Yeah.
Or if our patients are confident to communicate their concerns, because white coat syndrome is a thing, right? I mean, so if you feel dismissed, you might not communicate life-threatening information to anyone. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you said the confidence of the woman because, you know, I think in many ways, I love that we have International Women's Day because it's supposed to be the focus. But Lisa's still about teaching women to speak up. You have to speak up and not be silenced. And I think that is really important because people traditionally sometimes go to doctors. They're like, you know, my mother teases me. She goes, why are you giving me advice? You're not a doctor. I'm like, yeah, but Mom, it's logical. You need to ask all these questions. And now she asks more. She's much more, I would say, aggressive with the things she asked because, you know, when she had me at 25, they kept her in the hospital for like 6 hours and sent her ass home. Like,
wow.
She was like, I had this new baby. They didn't even keep you. They told you couldn't gain any more than 10 pounds. Like, it was pretty bananas, but she was of that generation where you never really questioned things.
Yeah, right.
And I have a lot of friends who are older women who have gotten pregnant later in life, waiting for the right time to come along or just having the baby on their own. And they said they always feel challenged by, you know, the doctor, like, well, the doctor should know. But then when you speak up, they're like, no, like dismissive. And I think one of the statistics that you have quoted before is that you talk about 1 in 5 women typically get misdiagnosed, mistreated. And then you said when it comes to persons of color, that range is worse.
30%.
Yeah, 30%, 1 in 3.
It is. And that is very real. And honestly, I would be curious as whether or not the number is higher, to be honest.
Oh, I think it's 100% higher. Like,
absolutely. But I believe that the patient is still the most critical member of the care team. And I believe that we do, to your point, have to teach and empower, in a way, women to still communicate what's happening in their bodies, because that's clinical information, that's data that is essential to their both short and long-term health outcomes, right? You may not always have the same physician forever, right? At some point, but but you're the carrier of your EHR in your body.
Oh my God.
Everywhere you go.
Yeah, I have never heard it put that way before. That is freaking brilliant. That the clinical information, you're right, you carry it with you. Like, yeah, that's also super empowering to think of it that way. And that for women that are listening, or men, husbands, partners, whatever we're doing out there, that is also your job, right? To empower the person that you're with to respect that clinical information. Kim, I mean, honestly, I have never heard it put that way before.
I love it.
And
well,
mind blown.
It would be me.
And you're right, though, because you don't have the same doctor. Even if you go in to get a blood test, there's somebody different. People don't ask you, like, how are you feeling? My aunt, my great aunt, she's long since left this earth. She was a nurse back in the day where they wore little white nurse hats and
I love it.
Nurse outfits. Yeah. And she told me I have teeny tiny veins and they roll around a lot. So you need to make sure when you go get your blood taken to tell them you have very small veins and they roll around a lot. And I was like, huh? And now when I go in, when I've had any procedures, I say, I have very small veins and they roll around a lot. And the person's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, really small. You're going to have to use a butterfly needle. And they're like, I know what I'm doing. And then they don't listen. And then like a second later, she said, yeah, I think I need a butterfly needle. I'm like, I told you. But what you said to me, I am my clinical information.
You
It's
are.
brilliant.
You're a carrier.
I feel like I want a t-shirt now. I am my own clinical information.
You know, that sounds pretty exciting. We may have to work on that.
I think you should get one. You should make them. And I would get one of the HealthEvolve logo at the bottom. I'm interested in your journey to HealthEvolve. I mean, this is International Women's Day. This is about successes, things we want to change. And I do want to ask you, actually, heck, let's ask it. What keeps you up at night, Kim?
Oh my goodness. So many things.
Many things.
I'll be honest, there's so much change. I've been in the healthcare industry for 18 years, over 18 years. And there's always change. There's always disruption. I mean, I helped to create the disruption, right? Being a part of the machine. But today is a little bit more intense. So as a builder in this space, thinking through the avenues which we want to get our solution, our products to those that need it most, both the worried wells and those that are the most vulnerable amongst us, that drive the cost and also don't have the level of access. How do we get the Lauren platform, our solutions to those individuals? The pathways have shifted a little bit. There are questions of what will happen with some of these avenues in terms of health insurance coverage and that sort of thing. What will happen in our rural communities? So some of it keeps me up at night, but the answers aren't there yet because we don't know. There's a lot to be decided. But as we watch and observe some of the uncertainty with whether Medicaid coverage will shift from state to state, whether certain access to whether it's telemedicine, some of those solutions will be shifted back. It's important that we're still, that I'm still mindful of that woman that I built Lauren for, right?
Yeah.
And to be in the community to make sure that we're focused on our customers.
Yeah, this is really interesting. So how do you put your thumb on change without knowing which direction it's going to go? So you have the Lauren platform, and so you're pushing this out, but you know that the market is like shifting. So how, as the CEO of this company, how do you manage a product like this in the market, knowing that, the ground could shift any second? And I think, we could have a 29-hour podcast on health insurance if we wanted to.
I know.
And what's wrong with that?
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2. Right. Exactly. And I think people would really be interested in that because I'm just going to confess to everybody, like I am self-employed. So I have the Obama Marketplace health insurance, which by the way is great. Like I love it. And I think of how scary it is to go into the marketplace to pick things. And then I think of how knowledgeable I am. And then I get afraid for people who, one, don't have a voice, two, are, marginalized, historically marginalized communities.
Right.
And it's like, where do they go? And also, how do we ensure that they still have access to healthcare, not just healthcare, but like basic care?
Yes. What I realize is the ground is shifting just like a volcano. And I'm in the Southeast, not in California, but from my understanding, even in South Carolina, there's movement on the ground when you can't feel it.
We're on plates. The whole country's on shifting plates.
Exactly. So there's always some shifting happening. Sometimes you just don't feel it until it really impacts you. What I would say is perspective has really helped me. I've spent a lot of time having very deep conversations with not only other women's health founders, but my customers. I spend time, I immerse myself in the community-led initiatives. I am in that space almost every day, every week, to really not only help with innovation at the state and federal level, but also to listen and research. And one thing that I found that helped me recently was I was so concerned about if I focus on one particular avenue first, because we are preparing, of course, with the launch of our Lauren platform. We've been piloting with consumers that primarily have a Medicaid background. But if I add on and create an opportunity in more so a commercial private side, will I miss those that need it the most? One thing I found was that even those that are insured, so half the births are, your employer pays for that, the other half pretty much is Medicaid.
Yeah.
Even with the first, right, that private or employer-based side, most of those individuals are underinsured anyway. So it's not like it's we're in the top 2% because we have a full-time job with benefits. No, you may be underinsured. So the need and the cost of healthcare impacts every house. Now, it's going to impact some households more severely than others, but it is needed. The access to these tools to improve your health is needed. And to be honest, with my personal story, having survived this hypertensive disorder pregnancy, I soon after found out through just advocacy work that as a Black women are 3 to 4 more times likely to die from pregnancy.
That is such a big number.
Right, than white women, regardless of income. So you can make triple six figures and it still does not make a difference.
Yes, because it's not about the money, right? It's about the care.
It's about the care. So what helps me with the shifting is think about the women, all women that I want to reach, regardless of income level, and to create a phenomenal, engaging tool with clinical support that meets the need. And if we can become customer obsessed, which we are, then we will do well, right? And that was advice that I received from a brilliant female founder, Megan Doyle, for Partum Health. She said, be customer obsessed. Don't worry about the launch pathways just yet. She told me that last year, and I'll have to thank her again.
Yeah.
That has really grounded me. And I didn't know I needed that level of grounding until 2025.
Well, that's what you said about shifts, right? You didn't know you needed it, but I think that's sort of what you said earlier about shifts. Like sometimes you don't see them coming until you see them coming, and then there they are. So in terms of I love what you just said. You said you got to make a tool that meets the needs. And in your opinion, the tool that meets the needs, you wanted to create something because you saw there was a need. So what was your journey to create HealthEvolve? How did you get to the point where you knew the healthcare system, been in healthcare for 18 years, so you knew the many jagged pieces. So what was it that Kim Smith was like, you know what, this is the tool that meets the needs?
I didn't know it was the tool 13 years ago, but my connection to this happened 13 years ago. We lost our daughter due to HELLP syndrome, whose name is Lauren.
Okay, that's the Lauren platform.
That's the Lauren platform.
I love that.
I had been advocating for 11 years. And in 2022, I had just transitioned out of an executive role with an academic hospital system overseeing a large medical group.
Yeah.
And I became very frustrated. I had been building the machine, right, for many years and saw more CDC data to show that our numbers are getting worse in terms of maternal health outcomes.
Ugh.
And while I had decided I was done having children, I was starting to think about, okay, what about future legacy? And then I was a little agitated. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that. We can put an explicit lyric on this thing. I don't care.
Thank you.
Agitated, yeah.
A decade of your life funding research and, helping with Momnibus and all the things. And it felt like we're just walking in a circle in the cul-de-sac here. This is ridiculous. So I decided if we can fund individuals going on exploratory missions to the moon, my God, we can use innovation to close the gap on maternal health.
I love that analogy.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? I think the world would be a better place if we had more women like you. And I know we're talking to some more people on the show that literally had that same approach. Innovation can be applied here. It can be. It has to be.
It has to be.
You just said something that was upsetting me when you said maternal outcomes are getting worse. How is that possible with better technology?
Right. And one of my board advisors just sent me an article yesterday, and it showed the 2023 data that maternal mortality rates are starting to go down for every race except for Black women. And so I'm thinking something's happening. Now we are building a solution for all women because it impacts every house. That's very important to us.
Yeah.
That's how we practice medicine, right? You don't practice based on groups.
Well, that's how everybody should practice medicine.
Exactly.
But can I say something controversial here for a second?
You can.
You don't have to answer. I mean, I get that. Make it for everybody because you want everyone to have this 100 weeks, to have the support, to move through all these things. I mean, is there anything in thinking if these outcomes for Black women are not improving, maybe it does need to be more focused because maybe that's the group we need to protect more?
That's really fair. No, it's not controversial. It's very real. It's very real.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about health disparities, which are differences in outcomes between groups.
Mm-hmm.
The school of thought and the understanding is if you can build and create a level of care that meets the needs of those that are most at risk, you raise the level of care for everyone.
Exactly.
I would argue that there's still challenges. We're seeing maternal mental health being a huge risk factor for mortality, primarily for white women. We're seeing cardiovascular issues and other challenges being a greater risk for women of color. But with disparities and with our tool kind of integrating with the health system, it's important that
you got a data set. Yeah.
You got a data set and you've got to force the care delivery approach to shift so that everyone is improved. Because honestly, it's not a perfect system. There are gaps in those 100 weeks, right? When you're handing off, right? There are gaps. And a lot of times you're more likely to have issues in the gap. And that's where we'll come in.
Interesting. You're saying some very big things here, like the shift of the care delivery approach. Like, I am my clinical data. And also, it's true. Like, if you raise the level of those that are risk, then everybody's benefits
Everyone
from that.
wins.
So I think that's the answer to the question. So my last question is, what does International Women's Day mean to you? It's a low ball question, but like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, International Women's Day. But I'm like, no, International Women's Day. What is it that you want to leave the world with on this day and every day, Kim?
When I think about International Women's Day, I think about the 600 million women around the world with or at risk for hypertension. What we're building is a global problem, and we've always had our eyes on the globe. I literally am getting a doctorate in global health equity, okay?
Woo, I love that.
So it's important that we build with our sister countries. It's important because we can learn so much from one another. We carry a lot of the same challenges. Sometimes the context often is different based on country, the structural context, the political economy. It varies from country to country, but the outcomes are still meaningful, right? The stories are very similar. And I believe that we can learn from each other. And we're building outside of the traditional walls here, right?
Yeah.
We're being rebels and building our own way.
Yes, the resistance. No, it's true. I mean, we've got to support each other.
Yes.
And I love that you talk about like getting context, the meaningful stories, because they all are related. And I think that's, to me, the point of International Women's Day is to really make those connections and realize, like, look, we have more in common than we have.
Yes.
That's not in common. Well, Kim, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all this insight with us today. And you're going to see all of her in the show notes, everybody. You can go to HealthEvolve. The company's based in South Carolina, but I mean, the company has applications. You could be a part of the Lauren program.
It's great to be a digital solution. So we will be expanding and growing.
Well, I want everyone to go check that out and check out Kim, follow her on LinkedIn, and she has other social channels because she is quite an amazing woman. And thank you, Kim, for coming on the show and being here for us.
Thank you.